Another LSU player has entered the transfer portal. We'll tell you why this is actually a good sign for the 2025 Tigers. It's Locked On LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making it your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. LSU opens up conference play in hoops against Vandy on Saturday. Quick thumbnail on that coming up in just a smidge. But Friday saw the 18th LSU Tiger enter the transfer portal. It was defensive tackle and former offensive lineman Kimo Makanae'ole. Now, I want to talk about why I actually think this is a good sign for LSU. Not to suggest that players leaving is a good thing, but what it indicates is a good thing. I'll explain what I mean here in just a quick second. Let me give you some backstory on Kimo if you're not familiar. So Kimo Makanae'ole signed with LSU out of the state of Florida back in 2021. Comes to LSU, he redshirts in 2021. He was a three-star. So in high school, played both offensive and defensive line, but signed with LSU as an offensive lineman, which is where it was thought he would end up playing during his time in Baton Rouge. And he did play offensive line for his first 3 years with the Tigers. In 2021, did not see any action. He redshirted. In 2022, he played in 5 games, but a total of just 30 snaps on the whole season. In 2023, he played in 4 games, total of 37 snaps. That's all offensive line and special teams. Well, remember, jump in the Wayback Machine with me, hop in the DeLorean, get that thing up to 88. Last year after spring, Brian Kelly was adamant that LSU needed to address defensive tackle. Well, during spring, they moved Kimo Makanae'ole from offensive line to defensive tackle. Now, remember also so let me give you context. So last year after the season and going into spring, Kimo's an offensive lineman, and you're returning 4 starters there. You had Campbell and Emory Jones and Garrett Dellinger and Miles Frazier. You were replacing Charles Turner at center, but Kimo wasn't a center. He was a guard. So you're talking about a situation where you look at Kimo and you say, hey, look, you've been here for 3 years. You haven't cracked the rotation at all. In 3 seasons, you've played a total of 67 snaps. How about you flip over to the defensive side because we need bodies, like warm bodies on the defensive line. Remember, you lost Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo and Jordan Jefferson all early to the NFL draft. You lost a bunch of your young depth pieces to the portal. You didn't have bodies at defensive tackle last spring. So Kimo moves over to defensive tackle thinking, okay, this may be a clearer path to the field, be part of the rotation. And he did play both offense and defense in high school. So even after spring, Kimo Makanae'ole, even after spring, and then after the injury to Jacobian Guillory, Kimo still didn't crack the rotation. It was young guys like Ahmad Bro and Don McKinley, Sean Washington, the transfer who came in, who stole those reps. And Kimo played 41 reps on the entire season. And, one of my sort of theories that I share from time to time is that if by year 3, you haven't found a foothold in a rotation, it's likely not going to happen because by that point, you've had 3 recruiting classes behind you with great players that are going to take your job. And clearly that's what happened. Don McKinley and Sean Washington and Ahmad Bro all cracked that rotation before Kimo did. And I don't mean this in any way to come down on Kimo Makanae'ole. I mean, if anything, I would say the one surprising thing is he didn't leave after last season for greener pastures. Instead, he stuck it out at LSU and decided to change positions because he wanted to be here, and I salute that tremendously. I mean, I think that's a great trait to have, especially in this era where a lot of guys leave. I mean, he's stuck it out, and I think that's commendable. But his path to the field just clearly wasn't there. So the fact that Kimo's leaving actually suggests that you're on a little more stable footing at defensive tackle. Now, the other news from Friday is that JVR Suggs picked Wisconsin. So remember, Suggs was a guy who after spring last year, Brian Kelly put out the call, said, we've got to add defensive tackle. It's an absolute must. And they went after some big ticket guys. They wouldn't spend the money on it. They land JVR Suggs from Grand Valley. And Suggs was a productive player for LSU in 2024, but he was a role player. He's a bit undersized, but Suggs got on the field on pass rushing downs. He was an interior pass rusher. And although JVR Suggs played, so he didn't play in the bowl game. He'd already entered the portal, but played in 12 games. And in 12 games played, 6 of them, half of the games, he played single-digit snaps. So you're talking about a guy that played in every game, but didn't play a lot of snaps. He had a very specialized role. He was an interior pass rusher, and he was really good at it. Despite playing very limited snaps, 3 sacks, 2.5 TFLs, had 11 pressures. Again, like in a very, very specialized role, when he was on the field, he was very effective. And you could have said, well, why not come back and have an opportunity maybe to get more reps, more snaps, play an expanded role? But the fact that he's leaving kind of tells you, doesn't it, that the opportunity wasn't there. So, Bo Davis arrived at LSU just about a calendar year ago. Brian Kelly hired him last January. And at that time, defensive tackle was by far the most glaring weakness on LSU's team. And Bo Davis deserves a tremendous amount of credit for how he was able to maximize a very limited roster, especially after losing Jacobian Guillory, who was supposed to be your best guy. I mean, you lost Jacobian Guillory early in the second game of the season. So I look at this and I go, of course, you never want to lose anybody. But a year ago, losing anybody at defensive tackle would have been debilitating because you were so thin on numbers. Now you're losing a guy who's going to play his 5th year of college, 2 guys that are going to play their 5th years of college, and Kimo and Suggs. And it actually is an indicator that they weren't going to have a key role on this team. Would you love Suggs back to have to play the interior pass rush role? Yes. But they obviously have enough bodies there that they feel like are going to be part of their 3-down rotation. So when you look at the defensive line position, interior defensive line, Jacobian Guillory returns, is likely going to be your lead guy. Ahmad Bro, who is awesome for you as a freshman. Dom McKinley, who really came on in the second half of the year, played the most snaps of the season in the bowl game against Baylor. Sean Washington is back for his final season. And then you bring in Sadir Mitchell from Texas. Remember, Sadir Mitchell is entering his 3rd season of college football, committed to sign, played for Bo Davis at the University of Texas as a freshman, and that was there this past season. So he'll be a redshirt sophomore at LSU, 6'6", 350. He'll be a big-time interior rotational player as well. Well, that's 5 right there. And then you sign 4 freshmen in this 2025 class. So you've got 9. I mean, just think about it. You're not playing 9 interior linemen in a game. You might rotate 4 or 5. There's 9 players right there vying for reps. And Guillory, Bro, McKinley, Washington, and Mitchell, those 5 are all going to have a role. And then maybe one of the freshmen carves out a bit of a role as well. All that to say, just 6 months ago, when LSU was finished with spring, and Brian Kelly is putting out the call that defensive tackle was the most glaring weakness, the absolute must-address spot. Now you look at it and you go, you're losing guys that are veteran players, and you don't even feel like it's a massive loss because you've recruited well there and you trust Bo Davis developing these guys, which clearly he has done. So Kimo Makanae'ole enters the portal. We'll see where he lands. JVR Suggs lands in the Big Ten at Wisconsin. But LSU chugs along. 9 defensive tackles on scholarship for next season. See how that rotation goes. It's exciting because Bo Davis is going to have all of these different pieces, and he'll be able to mold this ball of clay into what we hope will be a really effective unit. Listen, it's no secret. When you look at LSU's championship teams, they have been really good, if not dominant, on the interior of the defensive line, really across the defensive front. The onus is on Bo Davis and Kevin Peoples as well with the edge rushers to get LSU back to that. And in just 1 year's time, from when Bo Davis signed to now, it is light years from where they were then, where you didn't have enough bodies, to where you're losing veteran 4th-year guys and going, yeah, they probably weren't going to play. It's a great indicator that the level of talent development is there. on the defensive line. It's why Bo Davis is the highest paid defensive line coach in college football. Remember, 5 days from the end of the bowl game for LSU players to enter the portal. So 18 players now in the portal, but that's been counterbalanced by the fact that LSU has signed 14 incoming players from the portal in the number 1 portal class. So a couple more days left for LSU players if they would choose to enter the transfer portal, but Kimo becomes number 18. Okay, the LSU basketball Tigers tip-off conference play Saturday at the Maravich Center against Vanderbilt. Give you a little thumbnail preview of that as we continue Locked On LSU, your team every day. This message is from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering, worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions, whether you've got one form or 20. TurboTax experts give your taxes their undivided attention while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on what really matters. You don't have to lift a finger, but you'll get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. If you're ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed, head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. It is just about time, y'all. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown. Those props are so much fun, especially when it's LSU players. We'll look, Saturday, depending on when you're listening or watching. The Bengals will play in Week 18. Burrow to Chase. What a hookup that's been. Will Jamar score? You can bet all that at FanDuel. Of course, players will score a touchdown, props. How many points will each team score? All those props are there for you at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The LSU basketball Tigers will tip off conference play Saturday at the Maravich Center against Vanderbilt. And this is something we're going to have to get used to. Life in the SEC this year, nothing will come easy. LSU has a net ranking of 53. The Tigers are at home. They're 11-2 overall. LSU is a perfect 9-0 at home this season. Tigers are 5th in the SEC at 10.7 offensive rebounds per game. Corey Chest himself, the redshirt freshman, averaging more than 3 offensive rebounds per game. This is an LSU team that, again, has a great true road win at Kansas State. They've got a really nice neutral site win over UCF. 11-2, undefeated at home, ranked 53 in the net. And LSU is a 2.5-point home underdog against Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt is 12-1 on the season. Their only loss on the year came at home against Drake, an 11-point loss, not a great loss, but they have a double-digit win over Cal. They have a 16-point win over Seton Hall. They have a true road win at Virginia Tech that they won by 16 points. They beat TCU by 9 points. This is a Vanderbilt team that is pretty good. Their net is 35. And not only that, when you look at Vanderbilt's net at 35, you may think, oh, well, that's one of the better net rankings in the SEC. Nope. As a matter of fact, there's only one team in the SEC with a lower net ranking than LSU, and LSU's at 53. there are 364 teams that play Division I college basketball. Auburn, number 1 in the net. Tennessee, number 2 in the net. Florida, number 4 in the net. Alabama, number 10 in the net. Kentucky, 14. Mississippi State, 18. Texas A&M, 20. You kind of get the picture as we roll through this. Like, it's not hyperbole. This is the best and deepest that this league has literally ever been. Georgia is 28th in the net. We mentioned Vanderbilt at 35, Arkansas at 37, Ole Miss at 38, Texas at 39, Oklahoma at 42. I mean, Missouri's at 48. I mean, LSU at 53 is totally respectable, especially some of the absolutely dog games they played in the pre-conference. But it just goes to show you what it's going to be like in this league this year. It is going to be very hard. South Carolina at 85 is the lowest team in the net ranking. LSU, the second lowest net ranking team in the SEC. So LSU's got to find a way, because nothing is going to be easy. LSU's got to find a way to win conference games at home, especially when you're playing these unranked conference opponents like Vanderbilt. I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but this is one you have to win. You play Vanderbilt, then you're at Missouri. Then you go at number 24 Ole Miss, home against number 23 Arkansas, at number 13 A&M, at number 5 Bama, home against number 2 Auburn, home against Texas, at Georgia, home against number 24 Ole Miss, at number 23 Arkansas, at number 12 Oklahoma. You're going to play against number 6 Florida, number 1 Tennessee, at number 17 Mississippi State, at number 10 Kentucky, home against number 13 Texas A&M. 12 of your league games: Ole Miss, Arkansas, A&M, Bama, Auburn, Ole Miss again, Arkansas again, Oklahoma, Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky, A&M, 13 of your league games are against currently ranked teams. It is going to be so difficult to get to 500. LSU could be better year 3 under Matt McMahon, but the way you get there, the thing, if you want to hear your name called on Selection Sunday, the only way the math works is if you win the games that you're capable of winning. LSU's not going on the road and beating number 5 Alabama. They're probably not winning at Texas A&M. They're probably not going to win at Arkansas, at Oklahoma. They're probably not going to beat number 1 Tennessee in Baton Rouge. There's a lot of games that it's just being realistic, don't feel winnable. A home game against Vanderbilt, even as a 2.5-point underdog, feels like a gettable game and one that you absolutely have to get. 3:30 tip-off for LSU against Vanderbilt. If you're wondering about one thing to keep an eye on with Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt is a team that, in their last 10, they're 9-1. They scored 85 a game. Their opponents have averaged 65 a game. This is the first matchup in conference play for these two teams. Cam Carter has been great for LSU there in the backcourt at 23 in the last time out against Mississippi Valley. Vanderbilt averages 9.4 turnovers per game. And they're 10-1 when they win the turnover battle, when they turn the ball over less than their opponent. If you want to look at one stat in this ballgame, more than any other, that would suggest how this game is going to go, when statistically they're very similar. LSU averages 84 a game. Vandy averages 86. Vandy allows 66. LSU allows 67. Vandy shoots 49% from the floor. LSU shoots 48. LSU has a rebounding edge over Vandy, 41-37. LSU blocks a full shot more than Vandy, but it's the turnover number. Vandy averages nearly 11 steals a game. LSU averages 8 steals a game. Look at the turnover number. Vanderbilt, when they win the turnover battle, they're 9-1. When they lose it, that's how you can get Vanderbilt. So protect the basketball, force them into mistakes, and get out and run in this ball game, and see if you can find a way to get off to a good start in conference play. It's one you got to go get on Saturday at the Maravich Center against Vandy. Of course, we'll tell you how it went. We'll recap it here on Locked On LSU. Hey, thanks so much to all of our everydayers who are here every single day with us, because we're here every day, and we thank you for being as well. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, so please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.